In this video we're looking at the Direchasm Universal cards. Fans, Robin here, and I'm going to have a quick run through the extra deck of Universal cards in the Direchasm box. So let's have a look what we've got. I've covered the first few in my unboxing video. They are to do with the Primacy Token, and that is the first one we're going to look at. So there we go, it's spun off. I might have known that would go horribly wrong. And there we have the Primacy Token, which you cannot include in your deck unless you've got some of the Primacy cards with you, and there are various ways in which you can gain it. You can gain it when a friendly fighter's attack action targets a fighter with no wounds, counters and takes them out of action, or you take out your enemy leader, or you manage to hold 4 objectives, and if you do have it at the end of the round, then you gain an unspent glory. And let's have a look. Well, okay, so we have the Thrill of the Hunt, Master of Spoils and Fearsome Trappings. I did go over this in the other video, but basically there are things you can do with the Primacy Token. So Fearsome Trappings enable you to re-roll an attack dice. Master of Spores basically enables you to gain it, the Primacy Token, for just taking a fighter out of action. It doesn't matter whether they have wound counters or not. But if you get killed after that, before the end of the round, you don't get to use it, you have to discard the Primacy Token. And then Thrill of the Hunt, if you do manage to take out an enemy fighter, you can gain the Primacy Token. It's a reaction. You can gain it again, so it doesn't matter if they have wounds or not. And then you can also heal or push the fighter. So yeah, they are the uses of the Primacy Token. Ways of manipulating the Primacy Token. And then we have these couple of objectives which are to do with the Primacy Token, although they're both hybrid, so there's ways of scoring them without the Primacy Token. But basically you score it immediately, you gain it, or scoring it if you've got it in the end phase. But they're only 1 glory each. And the other way to do it is to have a successful attack action, or just an attack action with a damage characteristic of 4. So there's a definite sort of tie in there between damage characteristics of 4 and the Primacy Token. All about that kind of martial prowess and attacking things. Let's dig into the cards now. Some of them are more interesting than others. This one is a totally new design space opened up by Games Workshop. The fighter is a quarry, -1 dice to this fighter's attack action, and it cannot be discarded. But you get a reaction during a range 1 or range 2 attack action that targets this fighter. After the deal damage step, give the attacker this upgrade. So this opens up a totally new design space for Direchasm, the Prey Skin Mask. So you play it on your fighter, and that fighter becomes a quarry. You have -1 dice to its attack actions, which is not ideal, but the card can't be discarded. But then when you're attacked by another fighter, after the deal damage step, you can give the attacker this upgrade. So you basically pass it on to the attacker, which is, I think, pretty mental. And interesting, and has interesting things for remembering to get your cards back at the end of the game. But we haven't seen that design space used in Direchasm before, and that's a really interesting step. We might see this in control warbands, where you're not trying to do too much damage, because you -1 dice attack action to try and deter people from attacking you. And of course, it can be passed around, so your opponent may have it, but then if you attack them back, then they'll give it back to you. So it's an interesting design space, that one. That's the Prey Skin Mask. So the next two then, we've had Amberbone, we've had Shade Glass, we've had Nullstone, and now we have Soul Tooth. We've got a Soul Tooth Bow, which is range 4, and you can re-roll against some people with move and charge tokens. And similarly, the Soul Tooth Spear, which is range 2, is 2 hammers, 2 damage. And again, you can re-roll if the target has 1 or move and or charge token. So interesting new Soul Tooth weapons there. I'm sure people will be taking those in abundance in the game. And then have a look, what have we got next? We've got Savage Strength, which makes your fighter a hunter, but it adds 1 damage, but has -1 defense. So it's like a slightly, well, it makes them a hunter, which isn't that useful at the moment. Maybe it's going to become more useful during Direchasm, but it's obviously it's great strength with a massive negative, which is -1 defense. Then we have a similar card. We've got Savage Speed. So we had Savage Strength. Now we've got Savage Speed, which makes them a hunter, but again -1 defense. Gives them a +2 move. I can only assume we're going to see some hunter buffs during Direchasm. We've got the Earthling Staff. This fighter is a quarry. That Backlash and Gambit spells cannot deal damage to this fighter. Could be good. Depends how much magic there is in the game. I have to say there aren't that many magic cards in the game yet. We've got Formidable Defense. which makes you a quarry. If you are a quarry, you get +1 defense but -1 attack. Again, could be useful for some control type play there. And then into some ploys now. We've got Hunting Season. Hunting Season, which we've seen spoiled, is each fighter is a hunter and each fighter is a quarry. The effect persists until the end of the round. We've also got a trap. So this is another new keyword, the Slick Rock Trap. You play this after your enemy fighter's move action that ends on the same hex and objective token. Scatter 1 from that hex and push that enemy fighter to the end of the chain. If the enemy fighter cannot be pushed into a hex, the fighter is not pushed. Well, it's a trap keyword, which is interesting. It's also, I think, off the top of my head, a counter to lethal snares, because you can react with this before they can react with it, with the snares to destroy an objective. So it could be helpful to prevent feeding the Beastgrave. But it's an interesting card, and of sort of hopefully stopping objective play. So an interesting card, that one. Then we're going into some spells now. We've got Dauntless Aspect, which is a gambit spell. If cast, choose one friendly fighter within 3 hexes of the caster, give that chosen fighter 1 guard token. And we have Hungry Bolt, which is, I hadn't noticed this one in my hunger. I didn't notice this is another hunger card. It's a gambit spell. It's a swirly, a focus. You scatter 3 from the caster's hex, deal 1 damage to each enemy fighter in the chain, then give the caster and each fighter in the chain 1 hunger counter. So that's another way to gain a hunger counter that I missed in my initial assessment. Then we have Hypnotic Aspect. Gambit spell. If we've seen this spoiled, if cast, choose 1 enemy fighter within 3 hexes, push that chosen fighter 1 hex. Could see some play in some control type warbands, I imagine. And then we're into the objectives now. So we've got Treasure Hunters, which is a bit like making a statement, I think, but you only have to score 2. You have to be on 2 objectives. So it's not like making a statement. I think it was depending on the number of objectives. This is 2 objectives in enemy territory. So I don't know, 3 glory, potentially good. Winged Death is a surge card and it's a hybrid. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's range 3+ attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action, or a friendly fighter into charge action 6 or more hexes away from a hex in which they started. So you do need to be able to move fast. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter range 3 attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action. You're looking at fast and needing some shooting skills as well. There are a few of those around now with range and speed. We've got Successful Hunt, which I think is going to be an absolute shoe-in for Hrothgorn. It's a surge, and it's a friendly hunter's attack action that takes an enemy quarry out of action. So, I mean, it's got Hrothgorn on the card. It says everything you need to know about it, really. Looks a bit like Santa Hrothgorn in that picture. Savage Exemplar is the next card, which is a surge. Score this immediately after your leader's attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action. Yeah, we've seen that card before. It's got Iron Skull on it. He would love that. Love that card. Predatory Spell. It's a surge card. Score this immediately after your warband spell attack action deals damage that takes an enemy fighter out of action. We've seen cards like that before. So Stormsire is not dead yet. We've got an Intimidating Display, which is basically printed for Monog. It's a hybrid. Score this in an end phase if a surviving friendly fighter has a higher wounds characteristic than any other surviving fighter, or 3 or more friendly fighters in enemy territory. Dominant Position. Score this in an end phase if your warband holds more objectives than any other warband. Could be a really nice objective to back up some of those objective plays. I can't remember the name of the card. The one where you have to be on 2 and your opponent has to be on 0. If that goes slightly wrong, then you can maybe recoup a little bit with Dominant Position. We've got Absolute Dominance. It's all about dominance in this game. Score this in an end phase if 2 or more surviving friendly fighters and no more than 1 surviving enemy fighter. So it's getting towards Annihilation, but not quite as heavy as Annihilation. It's only worth 3. Could be challenging at some matchups. And I guess it's a way of it's a good card for aggressive warbands. Although a lot of aggressive warbands tend to be small numbers, so maybe not that easy to score. And then we have Aggressive Display. Score this in end phase if 2 or enemy fighters are out of action, or 1 or more surviving friendly fighters each have 2 or more attack actions. So that's one of those cards that you can score when you've only got 1 guy left quite easily, but hard when you've got 3 or 4. But similarly, if you can get 2 fighters out of action in a phase, it's again, it's going to depend on the matchup. But it's a hybrid, but it's not a surge. So I don't know how much play that will see. Maybe some. And that is it. That is all of the universal cards in the Direchasm box. So let me know which are your favourites. I'm really interested in the Predatory Skin Mask one, and I also the Soul-Tooth Spears. I do like those kind of set of weapons, and I'm intrigued by the Trap keyword. We'll see that later on. There aren't very many spells in there, but there are a few. Nothing too powerful, and there's no obvious other kind of lost pages type thing. And obviously we have the Primacy and Hunger cards tie-in as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the game evolves. Nice foils to the existing Beastgrave decks now that Nightvolt was cycled out, and nothing quite as powerful as Calculated Risk or anything like that. But we will see as the game goes on how it evolves. So I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you on the next video.